Dynasty players tend to be hyper-focused on youth. They want to get in on players before the breakout and unload them before the cliff. Makes sense, but that focus can also turn veterans into value opportunities. We've got 3 Dynasty buys who fit that category, including one running back that Jared and I don't exactly agree on. Ready to hear them? Let's go. Matt Schaff and Jared Small of DraftSharks.com here with 3 buy candidates for your Dynasty fantasy football trading. And Jared, I'd say it's a group of non-obvious players. Let's start with a guy who I know you're high on for 2025. Give me the buy case for Colts running back Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, I like him for 2025, and I think he has another year or two beyond that of potential elite production. He kind of seems like the forgotten elite running back at this point in fantasy. Jonathan Taylor averaged 102 rushing yards per game last season. That was 3rd most in the league. 4.7 yards per carry for JT last year. He was 15th among 47 running backs in rush yards over expected per attempt. So still a very, very good running back. And Jonathan Taylor was even better, even more productive last year in games without Anthony Richardson. 110 rushing yards per game in 5 games without Richardson. Taylor actually, his expected and actual PPR points per game last year without Anthony Richardson would have led all running backs. He was RB1 in both expected, looking at his usage, and actual PPR points per game. Richardson obviously is the big question looming over this offense at this point, but it's not going to be a question beyond this year because he's either going to take a step forward and be the answer for the Colts, or he's not going to be starting for the Colts by the end of this season and definitely into 2026. So that's not a concern for me with Taylor beyond this season. And then again, Jonathan Taylor's still only 26 years old. If you look at our historical aging curve research we've done, we're still expecting 96% of peak production this season, and then still around 90% the following 2 years. So again, that's where I think, you're going to get 2, maybe 3 more years of, I think, top 8 level fantasy production out of Taylor. And I just think that the market's a bit too cool on him at this point. I think he's a bit underrated. So it might be a good opportunity to, send a trade offer for JT.
I agree. And that historical aging data that you referred to tells us that historically, that age 29 season is where we should really worry about potential drop off at running back. Jonathan Taylor has 3 more seasons before he gets to that. This is his age 26 season that he's heading into. He's under contract through 2026 at $14 million per year. There is a potential out after this season if the Colts decide that they want cap space. But even then, we're talking about a 27-year-old Jonathan Taylor. Like, if he's out in Indy, he's probably going to find a home elsewhere unless there's some devastating injury. And that's not the kind of thing that you can plan for in Dynasty. So I agree with you here. He is valued right around RB7. That's where he finished in PPR points per game last year with Anthony Richardson starting more than half the games and while catching only 18 passes over 14 games. That's going to improve. They're not paying him to be a 2-down back, and they're not just sticking with Anthony Richardson no matter what happens. That's what they told us with their words this offseason. That's what they told us with the contract for Daniel Jones. If Anthony Richardson does not improve this year, he's going to get replaced during this season and certainly beyond that. So if any part of you being hesitant to buy Jonathan Taylor or thinking about selling him, if any part of that is, but Anthony Richardson, it shouldn't be. I think that's what people do too much in Dynasty is, I don't like this thing about his situation. Those things change very quickly, especially if it's something that is currently negative. The team is not generally going to keep riding something negative. They're going to want to improve it. So the next one on this list, Jared, is a guy who's older, and that's not usually the kind of player that we're looking to buy in Dynasty. So what makes Davante Adams a buy for you right now?
You mentioned at the top of the show, you have to, get different with these trade targets. And I think you mentioned a 32-year-old wide receiver like Adams, and most people are going to consider him at least closer to a sell than a buy. But I think, and of course, you got to be careful here, right? We're talking buying Adams is for teams in win now more, teams that are competing for a title this season. Should definitely not be part of any, rebuilding. I just think Adams was still awesome last year. That's the starting point for me. He was wide receiver 12 in PPR points per game over the course of the entire season. He was wide receiver 6 in PPR points in his games with the Jets, a 30% target share with the Jets last year, sharing the field with Garrett Wilson, who is plenty talented. Davante Adams last year, he was still 14th among all wide receivers in ESPN Open Score. This guy can still play despite the age. If you look at our aging curve, so again, Adams is 32 years old. we'd expect to get around 86% of peak production this year, around 80% next year. I think Adams is the type of guy that could beat those aging curves. His archetype of wide receiver, I think, is someone who should age more gracefully. He's never really won on like pure athleticism. He's more the route runner, the crafty type of wide receiver. So I think you could get 34, 35-year-old Adams still producing at a pretty strong level. The Rams obviously high on Adams, giving him the 2-year, $44 million deal. And again, he's obviously sharing the field with Puka Nacua, but one, we saw Adams produce last year alongside a talented wide receiver. And two, we've seen this with the Rams, right? We've seen Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua produce strong numbers at the same time. So I do think Puka is going to be the number one in LA, but I think there's plenty of room for Adams, this year and probably even next year to be a top 15 type fantasy wide receiver.
We talk about the aging curve data. We've mentioned before how that age 32 season tends to be a worrisome point for wide receivers. Now, we use it as kind of a guide, not a definite ruler. Like once a player gets to this point in his historical curve, forget about him. You have to weigh that versus how the guy is actually playing, the other circumstances, and his value in the market. And the value in the market is the big thing for Davante Adams right now. If he was still being, treated like wide receiver 16 to 20, then we wouldn't be buying him right now. We'd probably be selling him. But in Dynasty League Football's ADP, he's wide receiver 43. On Keep Trade Cut, he's wide receiver 44. I think that's probably the range where you're going to generally find Davante Adams valued. And versus that, yeah, he should remain a productive guy over at least the next 2 years. The Rams dumped Cooper Kupp and signed Davante Adams despite Adams being older, and they signed him for big money. So they didn't save on age or cash by switching from Cooper Kupp to Davante Adams. They brought in a guy that they think is a better player at this point. So I don't care that he's past that point that we typically worry about a player. I'm going to go ahead and take a shot on him if I can get him on the cheap. And that's really key for all these guys. We're never saying send whatever you need to or give this guy for whatever you can get. It's always about making a deal that makes sense for your team.
And going back to the Adams versus Kupp thing, again, I think the numbers and the tape to me would agree that, Adams at this point of their careers is a much better player. And again, Cooper Kupp last year was still, until that final third of the season, producing as a very, very high-end fantasy wide receiver. So I have no issues with Adams' ability to produce despite Puka Nacua being alongside him this year.
The last guy among our buys is the one that we're probably about to disagree on. It's Najee Harris, a running back now for the Chargers, obviously formerly of the Steelers. RB25 on Keep Trade Cut, RB31 on Dynasty League Football ADP, RB25 in Fantasy Pros Expert Consensus. Now, that is the starting point for why I would buy on him, Jared, because I think that he's being undervalued by the market there. The reason that I'm okay with buying on a guy on his second running back contract, which typically has not been a great buy, is this is a different time right now in the NFL than it was even 2 years ago. There's a league-wide trend toward rushing, trended up over the past 4 years. And then last year's rushing rate, the last time that the league median was as high in rushing rate as it was last year was 2010. We saw more 300 plus carry backs last year by a lot than previous seasons. Like we had no more than 3 in any of the previous 5 years. We had 6 guys hit 300 carries last year. Najee Harris just turned 27. He has been a durable back throughout his career so far. He signed the 1-year, $9 million contract with the Chargers. So to me, that says that we should expect him to at least be the lead back and potentially the feature back for the Chargers this season. That age also gives him this year and next year before that age 29 potential cliff that we talked about. Like I said, he's been durable. He hasn't missed a game through 4 years. So that positions him as a player likely to stay healthy through those years where maybe we have to start worrying about other guys wearing down. And he's seen 284 plus touches in each of those years. So he has held up through big workloads. Obviously, there's always some luck to staying healthy at running back. There's also something to staying healthy. Usage and production rebounded last year versus the previous 2 years. So I think Najee Harris is at least still a good player. And if he works out in his lone season with the Chargers, I think he either gets another contract with the Chargers or finds another home for his age 28 season. So I think whereas 2 years ago, we might have to worry about an age 28 back potentially being a free agent, I think right now it's a better time for that type of player, for specifically what Najee Harris has been to this point, to find jobs available.
I think we probably just have a minor disagreement here on Harris. We'll have a more major disagreement when we get to the sells portion of this. Harris, I wouldn't call him a sell. I don't think you're going to, get enough for him in a trade right now. He's just not someone I'm going out looking to buy at this point. I think you said it right, man. He's a good NFL running back. He's not a special NFL running back. Harris finished RB8 among running backs in PPR points per game as a rookie. Since then, he's been RB20, RB31, RB26. I actually sort of expected him to get a better deal in free agency. I think the deal he got is like obviously more than backup money, but it's not like you're definitely our guy type of money. I do expect the Chargers to add a running back in the draft. I think the level of running back the Chargers add is going to tell us a lot about Harris's role. I guess my final point with Harris, and just to wrap it up, like I don't think he's a difference maker this year. Like I think he's like a fine RB2. He's not going to, be a league winner. Then I think he's someone who is probably going to decline in dynasty value over the next 12 months just because of his age, because of the fact that he might be hitting free agency again next offseason. So again, if you have a big hole at running back and you're a win now team, acquiring Harris is okay if it's on the cheap, but he's, in general, not someone I'm pursuing in deals right now.
I certainly wouldn't go after him too hard. I would not go after him if I was in rebuild mode because I don't think he makes sense for that. And I think he's an okay player to wait on through the draft because I don't think that the value is going to shoot up if they don't draft a running back within the first 4 rounds. So I think you could still consider him a potential buy in there because people are still going to worry about the long term. So I think it's okay to stay patient. I don't want to overpay, but if he stays in this RB25 range, I think he's going to outproduce that at least this season for the Chargers. So if you think that he's going to finish higher than RB25 this season, and that's where his valuation is, I think he's worth going after.
Yeah, the fantasy community just doesn't like Najee Harris in general, right? So I just think his value is not going to climb much from here. I don't think.
Whether you are buying that guy, selling him, or somewhere in between, let us know in the comments. We appreciate the feedback. And subscribe to the Draft Sharks YouTube channel so you don't miss when we drop some new stuff. We're about to start diving into this rookie class ahead of the NFL draft, so you definitely don't want to miss those, especially if you're a dynasty player. If you're playing dynasty fantasy football, we want to be your unfair advantage.